This time on Captain Cash's Laboratory, we're going to be working on new for 2025, the Sights and Sounds piece, the Spells Abound from Lemax. This is brand new-ish. It was a display for Michael's, and it broke. And I know there's a piece of the tree inside the box, but that tree doesn't look broke, so I don't know where that piece came from. It's the only tree I see on here, so maybe that came from something else. I don't know. But anyway, let me let you listen to it. Kind of got a little problem with his hand there shaking. So we have, it sounds like a broken or bound up gear. Not sure. But that's usually what that is when it starts doing that clacking sound, is you have a broken gear or a bound up gear. Or if this is on a time, meaning that the gear is timed, and somebody pushed the hand, as an example, past the teeth, it's now stuck because it can't go any further, but it hasn't hit the reset. So it's now out of time. But I see everything else is starting to move, which indicates to me that the remaining parts of the drivetrain are working. Alright, so let's see what it takes to take this thing apart. First thing I'm going to do is disconnect the juice so I have more maneuverability. It's not my kind of piece, but I am going to incorporate it in my display. I think it's got decent coloring. The dyeing of the plastic and the painting of the resin, I think they did a pretty decent job on this one. So let's save it. So first I'm going to do is I'm going to check the bottom. It looks like the bottom comes off. I believe we got some screws underneath the feet. It's got 8 feet. Because it's brand new, of course the adhesive is really good. Let's just get one of these. Yeah, we got some screws. I know a lot of people think it's because it's Lemax it broke, but being a display, they said they think they know who did it, that somebody was screwing with it when it was moving, and then it started making the funny sound. So they're not toys. They all say that on them somewhere, usually in the paperwork. But anything that has motion, when you stop the motion manually, something internally is going to fail. It's usually a gear because they're the weakest link. You see a lot of debate online about how horrible they're being plastic and stuff, and I can see part of the argument, but I like the plastic because it's easier to repair and less likely to get more broken when you're doing it. But anyway, there's 8 screws on the bottom, so we're going to take all 8 screws out, remove the base, and see if we can see the drive that drives this. The other option is to separate the house from the plastic, like you do with the Haunted Horde Hotel or the Whiskey Distillery. And I hope this one's not the same way. And the reason I think it's not the same way is because it's plastic and resin combined. Most of the pieces where you remove the whole top section is just plastic. One of the Christmas pieces is that way too. You have to remove the whole top. It's because of that escalator inside the window. It's usually what breaks. So I don't know if it varies from city to city, state to state, probably state to state, more than city to city. But this piece, brand new, is $190 US, like I think it said like $230 Canadian. So it's an expensive house that somebody was nice enough to break their display. That screw does not want to come out. So we're going to try and fix the display. Now I did buy the house. It wasn't free. I wish, but I did buy it. I go to Michael's and buy their broken ones and repair them. Ah, there's that piece of tree or whatever I said that was hanging around. Apparently got stuck inside. Yeah, I have no idea. I think this is a wand. Ah, it gets glued in his hand. That's why it looked like a tree branch. All right, so base is off. The base has an outcropping right here, and I'll show you why in just a second. Trying to place to grab it so I can flip it upside down. So that's what the outcropping is for. It's for these characters right here. They go up and down. You can see, kind of see the spring in there. Here's the base for the doors on the right, the barn doors or castle doors. The mechanism that's clacking is probably over here on the left. It's probably attached underneath this plate here. I'm going to turn it on while the bottom's off so I can see the mechanism real quick and see if I can isolate where my problem is, because this has a lot of gears, just like the Hideous Harry's Toy Factory. One little motor drives everything in there, tons of gears. Yeah, it feels like it's coming from under the blue, this blue cap, so we're going to start there. Now the gear thing makes it, I guess, more manageable, because if you remember the Dr. Stretch and Pull's Torture Factory, that used a handful of motors inside of it to make it function, instead of one motor with a whole bunch of gear drives or belt drives, like the Toy Factory is an example. So they've changed the way they do things, and I'm not saying it's better or worse, but it does make it cheaper. Motors are more expensive than plastic gears. So here's this. It is covered in grease. Here's my paper towel. I am not setting this on my bench. I know the mat can be clean, but I don't want to put my arms in it and then smear everything everywhere. Alright, so the blue cover is exposed, and here's the gears. You can see there's a ton of them, and there's more that go underneath this way, which is, again, those castle-style doors on the front right here. So all these big gears look good. The gears that usually break will be right in this area or up by his arm, if it's built similar to some of the other pieces that are, well, similar as far as their multiple gear ratio, gear reductions, gear transfers. So I'm going to go ahead and take the motor assembly out. While we're doing this. And see what's going on. And if you're actually watching this and you're the 7.5 minutes, 8 minutes in, what do y'all think of FG Square if you've tried them? I have a couple of FG Square pieces. I like them. They are plastic. I don't like the fact you don't have a volume control, but you do have the option of turning the volume off, which is nice. And I actually like the FG Square pieces. I think they're going to be a contender in the market, depending on how long this market lasts. For the mini villages, I think they're more of a direct competition to Lemax than they are to Department 56. But that's just me. So this does have the new style Impossible gear with the screw in it. All the teeth appear to be intact, which is good, because it's really hard to find. Let's just make sure. Yeah, gearbox is good. There's no nothing. You can see the gear rotating, I hope, right here. It does make a funny sound, though. I wonder if one of the gears inside is damaged. Problem with this new style gearbox is they're micro gears. They're really hard to find. Let's take a look. Then we'll work our way up into the rest of the house. But anyway, I got hooked on to FG Square from watching Doug from Spooky Villages. And I bought the Cycloptic Manor at the time that he was showing it because it looked really cool. And it's actually a really nice piece. I was surprised. This has a single metal gear and a cluster of plastic gears The metal gear will destroy everything if it binds up. Wow, that's interesting. So we have some nylon, some metal, and a blue plastic, which could be nylon, but it's probably plastic with some dye. Kind of see it there. So there's the metal gear right here. It's dark one. The other dark one's the blue plastic, and the other three are the white, regular white ones. I'm going to try and turn it on with nothing attached to it, just so I can see all the teeth move. It's moving smoothly. There's no jerkiness. There's no noise. The noise might have just been vibration from this hanging. There's a lot of grease in here, but one of the advantages is the motor is pointing down, so that means the grease cannot drip into the motor. It will drip away from the motor. So, yeah, if anybody else has got the FG Square stuff, just curious what you think of it. If you don't mind plastic buildings. I don't mind plastic buildings. I don't care what the material is as long as the building looks good and functions the way it's supposed to. Like I mentioned before, plastic allows you to get a better color palette because of the dye. It doesn't change colors when you do the kiln for the porcelain, and it doesn't chip as easy as the resin. So there is advantages to plastic. I understand that you don't want to pay as much for the plastic as you do anyway. I mean, this is a plastic building at $200 price point, a little under. So I can understand that. But then when you look at the designing and stuff and cost to ship it across the ocean, still too much, but if you're a collector. Alright, I'm going to pull off this white plate, take a look underneath. So it is a slide plate with a micro switch and a very interesting triangular piece. Oh, that is your door. So this triangular piece is your door. So instead of using a gear to make the door open, which it does, it's a two-toothed gear, it uses a triangular piece that is used for timing. Interesting. I'm going to have to say their new buildings are getting more advanced in the mechanism. So here's what it looks like with this out of the way. So this is a triangular two-tooth gear. So there's two notches on the edge of the triangle, and there's two teeth right there. And this controls the barn door. And then there's a notch on the shaft, so you can't put it in on one of the other two sides. And then this is a slide plate that slides back and forth using this large gear here. And here's a micro switch, which should tell the system probably where it's located and it's for soundtrack. So if something pops out of the door, the light turns on, so on and so forth. I don't know. I can't get it that far due to the fact that there's something broken inside. Next, we need to find where the clacking's coming from. So I'm going to try and just turn these gears manually. They really don't want to turn, I'll tell you that. Next step is I'm going to remove the two characters in the front that pop out. That'll relieve some of the stress off the gears. Now, these screws are kind of sort of all different, so kind of make a mental note of which screws go where. So, base, plate, motor, other plate, and now, excuse me, the characters. So, The gear turns them down and locks them into place. Click. And then when it goes around again, punk and punk. So they won't lock on their own until the gear rotates and engages the little locking tooth in the back. That's how they make those things jump up. So here's the back, 2 gears. So that's less stress. So when I start to rotate these gears, I'll have less resistance. So here is the one that moves his arm. I'm going to move these 2 gears out of the way. So here's the arm gear. See the arm? That is this gear here. So when I turn this gear, you can feel it binding. So the mechanism that's binding is inside the house. It looks like we're going to have to possibly separate the house. So here's the drive shaft, which is captive, which means I can't pull it out the bottom. Let me see if I can get it back in. Sure can. So here's the adapter for the drive shaft on the gear. So we'll put that in, see if I can grab. And whatever it was went click, and now it's free spinning. It's no longer engaged. So whatever broke is broke inside here. Which means we got to put the bottom back together. It's fine. Not an issue. So we'll start with the gears. We'll get them back in. I may not put the whole thing back together. I may just put it together enough and then screw the bottom on to hold the gears in place and then take the top off. These gears are very, very slimy with the grease. So they're really hard to hold. And they want to fall out of my fingers. That's one thing about Lemax is they do not skimp on their lubrication. Sometimes it's a downfall because it does ruin motors. Also excessive grease, and when you're in an area that's dusty, grease will turn into concrete when it sucks all the dust out of the atmosphere, or when it sticks to it. It doesn't really suck it, it's not a vacuum. But I can't hold this gear, it keeps slipping out of my fingers into the recess. See if the pliers will. Here we go. Oh yeah, see all that wonderful grease. You gotta remove some of that extra stuff. You gotta remember, this is the bottom, so any grease that's on the bottom isn't touching anything because it's dripped down. Well, it dripping down is means it's just resting on the bottom of the unit. There we go. Sorry, the one tooth wouldn't align. Yeah, my screwdriver's all slimy too now. Alright, and we'll put the drive back in next. So this is the SRF 300CA motor, so when your motor does eventually die, because they always do, it's the standard SRF 300CA or RF 300CA, depending on the manufacturer, 11,400 RPM. I know everybody thinks that's excessively fast. That's at its maximum speed at the armature. It's only spinning at maybe 8,000 or 9,000 because it's not at full voltage. These houses are 4.5 volts. The motors are rated up to 9, so 11,400 RPM is at 9 volts. So at half voltage, it's probably only running at about 7 to 8,000. And again, that's the armature, not the gear attached to it. So I get that question a lot. Because everybody says that's too fast. It's not too fast. That's why we have all these gears to reduce the speed and increase the torque. Same thing with this. There's an excessive amount of lubrication on it. I'm going to wipe off some of the excess. If you need lubrication, it is PTFE grease. And you can get it in little tubes from Happy Holiday Parts. You can get it in bigger tubes from other places. As long as it's PTFE grease, not silicone grease. Silicone can actually damage the nylon gears. Some chemical reaction. It's not going to happen immediately. Do not use WD-40. Do not use WD-40 on these, or graphite spray. On some of the moving parts, you can use dry lube, which is, I use this stuff from 3M. It's kind of looks like white spray paint when it goes on, but when it dries, it's clear, and it puts like a Teflon film. I only do that on parts that are moving and rubbing. Like on the carousels, I put on the outer edge if it has a frame where it might rub, stops the squeak, and reduces the friction. The teacups, as an example, they're notorious for starting to rub the teacups onto the base. Put a little dry lube on there. It helps out quite a bit. For the moment, let me get this one on. 5 holes and perfect. We're doing this so we can get the tip it down without it falling apart. Apparently I used the wrong screws. Apparently I already forgot where they went. These screws are slightly longer because this is a thicker base here. So the holes are the same depth, they just use a thicker, longer, or excuse me, a longer screw for this thicker base. Which makes sense, you get more purchase area. Easily switched out. Especially when you have a little hobby electric screwdriver, makes it way faster. 2 more. So this will now allow me to tip this onto its top base, and then that way I can look at the top and not worry about all the teeth not meshing anymore, coming out of alignment, or just having the gears in general fall out. So there are tabs, and I'll show you real fast. We have a tab here, a tab here, a tab here. And those tabs are what holds the top on. I'm sure there's also glue. But this top comes off. There's a big seam all the way around. So now I'm just looking for glue. I'm sure they glued it. Oh, because we got a resin back and a plastic face. I'm wondering if the plastic face will come off separately and not have to deal with the resin. My concern is this fella here that looks like a Timu Santa Claus is probably going to get knocked off. Because the plastic tabs are only holding on this fascia, and he's attached to the fascia, not to the resin. So what's in the way would be him possibly the cauldron and the wiring for these 3 lights. So what we're going to do is we're going to poke around, see what happens. I do this so you don't have to. Yeah, that will definitely separate. So now we just need to push the tab in. So we'll start here on the bottom and manipulate the tab first. Let's see if that will do anything. We'll manipulate this tab. Yeah, they move freely. That's good. So now, just got to see what it's going to take to get it to pop off. Ah, there is some glue right here. It's hot glue. Looks like I should be able to peel it off. Another set of needle nose right there. There we go. Now we'll see if we can get some separation. I'm sure the glue went down farther than I can. There we go. There's the separation. So I'm going to assume that the spider web side is probably the same. So we'll get the little screwdriver in there. Screwdriver will fit, but it's just barely long enough to, there we go, separate. Alright, is it glued to the water fountain? Doesn't look like it. Or excuse me, the hole that the characters jump out of. It might be glued to the shrubbery. Can't see. And that appears to be it. Alright, let me see if I can pop her off. I don't know if this is the right way, but this is how I'm going to start. Getting some movement, but not as much as I wanted. I need something a little bit flatter, like that. There we go. It definitely has movement. I think it is glued to the well or the fountain or whatever you want to call this thing that the characters are jumping out of. Because, I don't know if you can see, I have a lot. It's no longer attached anywhere on the top or this side. The 2 clips have been pushed out, so it's just attached on this side, which I have shrubbery right in there, and the fountain. I think that's where my attachment points are that I'm stuck on. There's a little lip on the edge here. Of course, they won't stay down now because they're not in alignment with the gear yet. Let's see. Nope. Looks like it's the shrubbery. So shrubbery broke free from the wood side, or the plastic wood. hoping it comes apart without removing the entire resin house. That's what I'm shooting for. Like I said, if I break it, it's fine. It was already broken. And I do this so you can do it at home and hopefully know the correct way when I'm done. And I broke a piece of the fence. I need to remove this cauldron so I can get underneath it. Cauldron just appears to be a little bit of glue. And a wire. Yeah. There we go. So cauldron will now be out of my way. I can free up this wire. So I can move the cauldron. Now I can get under this lip and try and lift this corner. So I'm applying a little pressure. Just making sure I'm not missing any other clips. I only saw the two. And I might be caught on the mechanism for his arm. Looks like, based on what I can see behind him, since I haven't peeled away, it looks like we're going to have to remove the whole house. There we go. Because with him pulled away, there's a hole right in here, right there, and you can see the mechanism go straight back, which means when I pull him forward, I'm pulling on the mechanism, which is probably either screwed or glued to the inside pan. So we're going to see about lifting the entire house, similar to the other ones they make like this. No, it sounds like it's breaking. All it's doing is breaking the hard glue. And the reason I'm not using a heat gun, because I'm sure there's somebody out there screaming, heat gun, plastic house. Plastic houses don't like heat guns because the plastic melts. So you can use a heat gun, you got to be very careful. But what's nice is the hard resin glue that they like to use generally doesn't adhere very well, so you can usually just use something to pry on and get it to crack free. Okay, you can see I'm moving the house and it's pulling his arm. Out of here. I need to separate this piece of plastic, which has the motion in it. It's glued in this corner. It's glued right here. There we go. And there's a little glue right in here. Technically, this entire house is separated from the base. It just doesn't want to lift off, which means I got something that's catching. Now I just need to figure out what it is. And it might be this power port. But it honestly feels like it's catching on the front. Yep, you definitely need to remove this house to get to the part. So taking the bottom off just allows you to look at the gears. Getting to the internals, you're going to have to remove the house. But the house is stuck on this front door assembly. This door assembly moves, and that's where I'm caught. So I need to find the trick to get it to pop free. It feels like it just has to pull out of the shaft. I'll tell you, flashlights are going to be your friend on these, so you can see inside and try and manipulate what you see. There's a lot of glue in there. It might just be the glue holding it. I can't get it all to break free, which is very possible. Yep, it's the glue. Alrighty. So yeah, this is just like every other style plastic and resin house. So the house is broke free, but it won't lift all the way off because of the plugs and the cable. So you gotta watch when you lift, see what's binding. There we go. So that's what it's getting caught on. So taking the bottom off will allow you to see the gears, but you won't be able to fix anything unless it's the gears or the motor. So if the motor's bad, there you go. This one, they at least give you plenty of slack on your wires, so you can actually remove the house. That's great. Trust me, that's a positive, because a lot of them, they don't. And then, the only thing I don't like that I see in here is, that is a Mylar twist tie. Mylar conducts electricity. It's right next to two circuit boards. I'm not a big fan of that. Also, this little tab that's the positive right there. And this little tab is right close to that to energize this with 4.5 volts of power. So don't try and take the plastic fascia off. I'll put some super glue on it and put this back in like it's supposed to be. The little knob that broke off here is probably going to be gone forever. I'll just hit it with a touch of bronze paint. I might break that side off to match. But here's your internals. Here's your main board with the blob chip. Here's your distribution board for all your lights. Where's the blob chip? There it is. So the blob chip's over here. The sound chip appears to be down there on the bottom. Here's your speaker. Here's the dude that walks out of those doors. This is a light wire, which lights up this light here. Here's our mechanism for the arm. The thing that I think is causing all the problems. I think. Unfortunately, because all the gears are attached, I'm not sure which thing does which thing as far as what's causing the clack, 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 clack. All the gears on the bottom look good. I think it's an alignment issue, and that's what we're going to test out now. So I'm going to plug it back in. Oh yeah, right there. And we're going to lower that down, and we're going to watch. Okay, there's my problem right there. It's an alignment issue. His arm is at mass extension, and that is not at the apex of the rotation. So that big gear I was telling you about that had the screw that makes this thing open, there's another one on this side that does the exact same thing, except it goes upwards instead of outwards. So I'm going to relieve the pressure by unscrewing this and seeing if by removing his arm from the pivot, like so, if we can make this, if it'll work. No, it can't. It's also going too far forward. So they jumped the teeth on this plastic linear actuator. I don't know what you want to call it. It converts the circular motion into a linear motion, and it actuates the arm. Now that it's all the way forward, though, I'm going to have a hard time getting this plate up. So underneath the plate is another screw, which that screw is what makes it actuate or go up and down. So I'm going to remove that screw, like so. Apparently it's not all the way out. So here's the actuator. So how it works is this gear rotates down here, what my finger's pointing at, and when it rotates, this plate, this OBD green plate, holds this in the track, and then that screw goes right inside this track, if this wants to stay out of my way. So as it moves, this goes back and forth, which doing that pivots this up and down. So it takes the circular motion and turns it into linear motion. That's why I said I call it linear actuator. I don't know. Man, it is still binding, and it's binding on that gear. Why is it binding on that gear? This is why I left the bottom completely off and not put it back together, is just in case I have to take the gears out. I'm going to see if this gear comes out the top. It does. So this gear is fancy. So here's the gear that converts it to linear motion. And that silver center is a bearing. It is a real roller bearing. That is very unique for Lemax. It's something they started doing recently. I saw one or two of their pieces last year that had that too. Now, we've taken that whole motion out, so if it's still binding, it's going to be in this area, which it is. I can hear it. Also, I don't know if you can see, probably not, but those teeth, when I turn it off, start going backwards, like it's winding up a spring. Alrighty. Because there's two springs on this. So I don't see anything broken. I'm going to assume it's a timing issue. When whoever that was at the store, customer-wise, held this and it screwed it up, it's out of time. That's what I'm still leaning towards. I haven't found anything broken yet. But I'm going to remove the springy thing that possibly is causing some of the binding. And we're going to do this again. Now we're going to take apart this side, which is also a linear actuated piece of plastic. I know some of you you're screaming, you already put that back together. Well, yeah, I had to hold the gears in place, or else as soon as I turn it on, they'd all fall out. So we're going to do this one step at a time until we find out what the cause is of the clacking motor, or excuse me, clacking gears. Pull this out, and I'm going to go ahead and pull out this, oh my god, this triangle. Wow, that is extremely tight. That might be my alignment issue. Maybe they didn't touch the arm, because they said they touched the arm, probably based on the fact that this is broke free. I wonder if they held the door. Let's find out. Yeah, so they jammed the door. So it's a timing issue, other side of the unit. So next, let me put these guys back in, which is my springing motion that I was seeing. And we're going to see if I need to rotate the gears just a little, get it to drop in, like so. And we're going to see if we still have a problem with it springing back excessively far. So if your piece is doing this, you may not have to disassemble the whole thing like I did. But by doing this, you now see how it works, how it comes apart, that some pieces have to be accessed from the top, like the wizard. He has to be accessed from the top. And if you blow your speaker, because you run it at max volume all the time, I don't know why, these things are deafening. That's how you get to your speaker. All right, let's see if the little characters do their thing. 1, 2, good. This is not an automatic resetting piece, even though it has micro switches. There we go. Now, technically the character's all the way in, so alignment should be, here's the door. So this has 3 teeth. I said 2, but there's 3 right on the point pointing to my right. And the door has 2 teeth, and I think one of them is broken. Yeah, it's a broken tooth. Well, that would be why it's clacking, is because it's getting stuck on the broken tooth. And yeah, that's probably not going to be repairable. It doesn't mean anything though. Before you go, oh, yeah, it's garbage. It's not garbage yet. So let me pull this plate off. Oh, come on. So much grease, you can't hold on to it. Oh, it's pressed onto the door. That's going to pose a problem. Oh, sorry, it's pressed onto the character, not the door. I don't know why I said the door. So, the character is pressed onto that plate. There should be a way I can pull him off. I can't glue it on. Or they can glue it on. Or it's screwed on. It's a 2-piece character. Let me see if I can pop him off. Not even glued centered. It's standing at an angle. So I can fix it. It is screwed on. Alright. That's why it won't come off. So let's unscrew this. There we go. Alright, now I can show you how this works. I'll get a little closer to the camera. Let me wipe off the grease. Again, I don't need 9,000 tons of grease in these things. They could cut down on the cost if they cut their grease in half. Alright, so this slides back and forth. Here's the 2 teeth. You notice that tooth right there? It is chipped. It's pretty obvious. Something contrasted. See the top tooth? See how it's not pointy? And it's kind of pointy. It's pointy in the wrong direction because it's broke. So, this is the gear that drives the door. So the 3 teeth are right there. Those 3 teeth, when it comes across, it does this. The thing is when I try to rotate it, because that tooth is broken, it doesn't grab right. That's the clacking. The tooth is chipped. Now, this door, you could just leave it open. Or, you put a little spring on it. That's how they used to do it in the old days, before they went to this fancy triangular gear. Or, you can try and file this tooth and see if you can give it enough edge to catch. Or if it's brand new, you can just return it. But if you're a collector of these, you know that after a while, you can't replace them. They only make so many. So, scrape off the globs of grease. As soon as I'm done with this piece, I have to clean this bench. You can see all the grease speckles all over it. So, alright, well, I'm going to put it back together, and we're going to, now that I've scraped the broken plastic off with the screwdriver, I'm just curious if there's enough to grab it as it is. Because sometimes just cleaning the broken stuff will take care of it. Not always. I'm not anticipating it to. I need to rotate the gear. That way I can get this back on, like so. There we go, and right there. Had to rotate the gear because of the micro switch. The gear was all the way at the bottom, which means that I would be putting pressure on the micro switch, fighting the micro switch to put that screw in. And now I'm going to go to where it's all the way at the top, so I know this is set in the right time. And there it is, top dead center. And where's my door? There's my door. Let's open it up. As this notch fits on the door. So we need to there we go. Now we're on the door, like so. There we go. So I'm going to just use my thumb to hold the pin while it does its thing. The door actually should be open right now. I put it in the closed position. I just realized that. Top dead center is open. It's a good thing I didn't do it. I would have broken it into little pieces. I'm in a lot of stress. There we go. So top dead center on this gear that pivots this plate. The door is completely open. That's why they use the triangle. Alright, so the character will be going back now, and the character should be just behind the door, and now it's about to pivot, and that's where it gets stuck, right on that broken gear, and yeah, she's wedged. So I need to get it off the micro switch, because it jumped over the micro switch. Yeah, I might have to tighten this up a little. Whoops. There we go. So, at least we now know what the cause is of the problem. I want to try it one more time, but I'm going to put the plate on instead of my thumb, because my thumb, being fleshy, doesn't allows lateral movement. So we're going to do it one more time. I'm going to go to top dead center. So top dead center or bottom dead center are the best two options for timing. If you ever timed a car, you always set it at the top dead center. Same thing, we want top dead center, and we know that the door would be open at top dead center and fully closed at bottom dead center. So with top dead center, we know it's completely open, and we know that when we put the plate back on, that we should be in full alignment. Meaning that the micro switch is in alignment, the door is in alignment to the gear, and the character would be in alignment to the other gear. Even though the character is not on it at the moment. There we go. He's right here. Now for testing, normally I'd only put in a couple of screws, but because this plate is actually under torque, because as it's moving up and down, the slide plates are bowing, I'm going to put it in all 5 screws. Because it's got to hold that triangular gear in place, and it's got to hold the pivot plate, or the slide plate in place, which is sliding in one direction, but the gear is trying to pull it in the other direction, push and pull. And then we have the micro switch that when it gets engaged also wants to pop out, and this plate holds it in. So there's so many things that this piece of white plastic is holding in position due to the torque that's on it. I'm going to make sure that all the screws are in it so we can try it again. We'll see if just cleaning it now worked and not using my thumb. So I can see the plate sliding down, which means that in a moment it should engage this triangular gear, which I can see the corner of. There we go. See, the triangle gear has rotated 66 degrees. So the plate's moving back. The next thing I'm going to do is when it comes back out again, I'm going to turn it off, and I'm going to put this back on, and that'll add a little more load. The light turned off like it was supposed to. So the light's back on again, because that's what that micro switch is doing. When the micro switch is engaged, it dims the light. When the micro switch is not engaged, the light's brighter. That's, again, timing. It's all the timing. It uses mechanical and digital timing. All right, where's my little dude? Over here. How was he in here based on the glue? On the glue, he was facing this way. I am going to center him though, so he's not cocked at an angle as I pull him off. There's that. So I can't guarantee how long it's going to last because of that chipped tooth, but cleaning out the debris, resetting the timing, it is working. It's got a little bit of a jerk when it hits that tooth, when the door moves. I can see it in the door. I can see it in the triangular gear because the points stick out past that white plastic base. But it's working. So next, let's put this back together and put 100% of the resistance back onto this piece. So first things first, drop the gear in there. Put the screw into the bearing. So, finagle this guy back in. Actually, I'm going to do it to where this is right now currently sitting at bottom dead center. I'm going to move it to where it's at top dead center so it's easier to put together. So there's top, little pass, but there's top dead center. So this side has 2 notches which fit underneath 2 plastic fingers that are attached to the bottom gray base. So first we get that in, and then we'll lift that up so I can put the screw in. Should be the screw. Small track, small head. Now we'll get the fingers to lock in like that, and perfect. And then we'll put the lock screw in, which is right here. And now get his arm in. It doesn't feel right. Something doesn't feel aligned. So if it doesn't feel right, don't force it. Take it back apart. Do a quick examination. Doesn't feel right because it's not seated on the gear. It has slid. There we go. It just dropped on. Yeah, that looks a lot better, and it should feel better once I put the lock plate back on. Lock plate sitting flush. And just so this doesn't pop out, we'll put the lock screw in here. It shouldn't technically pop out, but I'll just put the lock screw in. Alright, here goes nothing. That's all the resistance. I don't think this character weighs enough to add any more resistance to that plate, and I don't think the flying bats make a difference, but you know what? I'll pop them on real quick just for fun. There we go. So now it's a whole bunch of gluing. Gluing the top back on, gluing the character back on, gluing the wand back in his hand. So we just got some gluing to do, and she's fixed. So we'll do a recap. Oh, and I gotta glue the cauldron on. I am going to use like super glue for the cauldron, and I'm going to use hot glue for this, just like they did here. This isn't hot glue around the base. This is hard glue, resin type glue. But here and here was hot glue. You can tell because it's spongy, and you can peel it off. As far as the character goes, this dude right here was also hard glued on. I will probably put a dab of hot glue on it and make him centered so he's not standing at an angle on that pad. Probably have to chip off some of this hard glue to make him sit flat though. And then I'll put the base on. So you saw how I took it apart. Just reverse it to put it back on since we're an hour and almost 5 minutes into this. So I'm going to go ahead and put her back together off camera. Just same way you take it off, just put it back on. So I'm going to literally slide this over, line that up with the hole in the top. That's the hardest part. And then before I do that, I'll probably glue him on because it's accessible right now. And then once that's cured, meaning the hot glue has cooled down, I will then screw the base on, put a dab of hot glue on all the little sponge pads, and then we'll come back and do a low light test and functionality. So then I will probably put it in my display and then scrub my bench, get all this grease off, all this shiny stuff. It's nasty. So, alrighty, return in just a moment. Okay, we're back and it's fully reassembled. Top, bottom, the whole 9. So let me readjust some lights here. And, you know, they always come bent in the package anyway. And let's fire it up. And let's kill some lights. The clacking you're hearing is the guys jumping in the front. Hold it so you can see the door opens. Guy comes out. You'll see these two guys jump up. Little jump scare. Jump 1, jump scare 2. He fits better in the door now. He's not leaning because he was almost touching this door when he went in when we were playing with it. There you go. I'm going to turn the lights back on. So, here is the house glued back together. See, it's not falling off of its base. In case you haven't seen it before, or you missed it, this side says Spells Abound, new and used incantations. Of course, it's Spells Abound on the front. We got a stack of books in his hand with a skull on top in the middle. We got the 2 jump scares. Spells Abound on the light pole. On this side it says Bargain Barn, thousands of used spells. Conjuring class, make friends into frogs. So, and I don't think there's anything written on the back. No. Oh, apparently the glue did not adhere to the cauldron because it just fell off. Alrighty. Oh, it's still tacky. I use super glue. I think my super glue is getting old. It's not adhering as quick, but well, it should stay. There we go. So, recap, if yours is clacking, it's either going to be the mechanism on this side for the arm or the mechanism on this side for the guy in the door. Oh, actually, we'll just lay it on his back so you can see it better. So, if you think it's a broken gear or you have a bad motor or a bad drive system, because it's all gears, no belts now, take the bottom off, remove the 8 pads, take out the 8 screws, call it good. If you think it's technically, even if the triangle gear is out of alignment, you can do it from the bottom too. So pretty much you can do most of it from the bottom once you know what your problem is. Just remove the screws on the plates, pull everything out, and the only time you really have to take the top off is to access the speaker, the circuit boards, the lighting, or the mechanism that actually controls the arm, or the drive for the bats. So technically you can remove everything from the bottom. So I could have fixed it on the bottom if I would have noticed that was the binding spot. I assumed it was his arm because I've seen people on other pieces hold the moving external parts and they cause it to jump inside the mechanism in here. I assumed it, I didn't verify it, and well, it took a little longer. But now you know how to take it apart completely and how to put it back together, just reverse the process. So it's not terribly hard to take it apart. Just take out the 8 screws. You saw the stuff inside, a lot of gears. If you're afraid you're going to lose the gears, take a picture so you know which gear goes where. Of course, if you screw up where the gears go, they just won't fit. So that's a positive. If you think it's binding because of these guys, it's just 4 screws. You can pop them out and try it. If you think it's binding from this one, it's 5 screws, then another screw that holds on the mechanism, or you can just pull the drive gear off and see if it still binds. And then lastly would be this one, which this one, the screws are on the top, so you would have to remove the house to get to this one. The screws that hold this one are on the bottom. So the only time you'll ever, like I said, have to take the house apart is the top side controls for his arm. If you want to work on the lighting, like this light burns out or this light burns out and you want to fish a new light inside, or if you blow a speaker, some of the pieces I fixed recently, they just had bad speakers. They were like vintage games and stuff, but So sometimes it's a speaker. Even on Lemax, it blows a speaker or the wire breaks, and then you don't have sound, or you don't want sound, and then it's fine. So, but it doesn't look bad. I like the lighting on it. I do kind of wish this year they didn't put so many white lights on all their pieces. When you're trying to do a spooky display, white lights don't do it. In the previous years, they had a lot more purple, green, red, orange lights, yellow. Now they're going with these warm white, and everything seems to have warm white this year. And it takes away some of the spookiness in a low lit room. But we'll see. This one, like I said, the light's back off again. Doesn't look too bad now that the lights are bent at a more appropriate angle where they're just pointing at the house. You do get some bleed around, as you can see, and the lights pulsate. It gets darker and brighter a little bit. I don't know. I still kind of wish the lights weren't white. I could see maybe a couple of them being white, but I don't think all of them should have been white. But that's why they allow you to bend these things, so you can adjust them. Don't bend them too much because you'll break them. What's underneath this black heat shrink is actually the leads for the LED, and you can snap them off right at the base of the bulb or the light. So there we go. That looks a little bit better. Yeah. We still have a pattern about 6 inches on the right, almost a foot on the left, and the camera doesn't show it, but this light goes all the way over. And on the front, right below this, is past it, so probably about 12 inches of white light on the front as far as illuminating the bench, especially when that thing gets brighter. So, I don't know. It's a nice piece. If you get this piece and it's clacking and you can't return it because there's no replacements, or you don't want a gift card for another one, unscrew the bottom, check the gears, remove the drive components to all 3 sections. Just do it one at a time. Make sure you take these off so you don't break your spinning bats. And this one you can lay on its back and drive it. It's not going to fall apart as long as that blue plate, that white plate, and the gray plates are all in place. The gears won't fall out. But you can take it off, take one of the gears out so it can't drive, and then turn it back on. Just remember on this one and this one, not as much. This one, the timing is important. A circular gear, the timing is not as important. But on the triangle gear, it's very important. If it is out at all, it will bind and or break the tooth. And if you break the tooth on the triangle gear or the flat plate, you're going to have a problem, because I've never seen a triangle gear until today. Well, let me rephrase it. I've never seen a triangle gear on a Lemax piece till today. I have seen them in other applications. So, yeah, that's it. So there you go. Spells Abound. That's how you rip it apart down to its basics. And reassemble is just reverse. Use glue. I use hot glue to reassemble the house. I use super glue for the cauldron and the guy that comes out of the door. And I did use hot glue on the wand because I'm afraid that if I do put this away or move at some point, as an example, I might break the wand putting it in the box, because it's such a tight fit with these new egg crate style packaging that if it does, the hot glue will separate before it breaks off like his thumb. So, but anyway, so that takes care of this one. So a brand new broken piece to a fully functional piece. Although I did lose that little bulb. It went flying. If I find it, I'll glue it on. If not, I'll just touch up with some bronze paint. You'll never know. You could make it spookier by dry brushing it and making it look a little dingier and scarier. But other than that, it's a fine house. I don't do a lot of stuff with wizards and witches and stuff, so it doesn't really fit, but I will find a spot for it. Alright, well, thanks for watching this exceedingly long video on a brand new piece. Until the next one.